Okay, we are live right now.
All right,
And that means a message went out to everyone to come and listen, other than the invited guests. So, Jonathan, take it away. You can introduce everybody. We're at the Google Hangout for the WordPress Meetup leaders.
Yep. Thanks, folks. We've got an interesting panel. We've got some diverse views here, and I'd just like to go through and give the opportunity of our guests to introduce themselves. And we'll start with Adam. You go for Adam.
Good morning. I am Adam Silver. I am based in the Southern California area. I run the South Bay WordPress Meetup Group. I blog and do a podcast out of kitchensinkwp.com weekly. Teach a WordPress 101 course here in town, and I'm also a director of social media for a company which I am totally sarcastically going to say in love with. No, I do some work for another company during the day, but I'm not there much longer. But they don't watch this, so they may not know that. So moving on.
All right, there we go. We've got it. Can David hit?
Oh, David's next.
Oh,
David.
okay. Sorry. Hi, I'm David Laeta. I organize WordPress Orlando and WordCamp Orlando. I own my own company for custom web development, Orange Blossom Media. I teach programming courses at a local college. And yeah, I think that's it. That's good.
All right, that's great. And then we've got John.
Hello, my name is John Locke, and I'm an independent web developer out of Sacramento, California, and I blog at lockdowndesign.com.
Fancy, I like that name. That's good.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
And then we've got my co-host, and I know what he is. We've got Bill. Introduce yourself, Bill.
Yeah, this is the guy who just had the colonectomy, whatever it's called, yesterday. I'm feeling good now. So anyway, Bill Conrad.
That's not really saying a lot, is it, Bill?
I have a podcast. It's called Timelines of Success. I use in WordPress. I'm finding that WordPress is probably one of the most important elements of the whole podcast element, that you have to have some type of a WordPress platform to really get your podcast out to the people. You can't just do podcasts. So that's my strong desire and interest in WordPress. Jonathan and I learned WordPress through actually going to local meetups and meeting Jonathan here in Reno, Nevada. And I'm helping Jonathan on the other side and other folks with the podcast side.
Right.
That's me.
Right. I'm the host of this show. My name is Jonathan Denwood. I run a small digital agency. I'm one of the organisers of the Reno WordPress Meetup. And also, I am in the midst of starting a startup and seeking funding.
Here, let me write you a check.
Which I have, with a team, have built in WordPress. And to say it's been an interesting exercise is an understatement. So thanks for the introductions, folks. What I'm going to do is that we're going to quickly go ask you if there's any kind of news story that you found interesting in the past month. Just choose one and just explain why you're interested, and then we can pass some comments on it. And then the main subject of this hangout is that I've had a few people say to me that WordPress is a bit of a can be a bit slow, and obviously I don't think that's correct. I think, but I just want to go. Some people say that what you got to do to avoid that. But to start off with, Adam, is there any story that you found interesting in the past month?
So actually, yeah. So to jump ahead, but the slow is it's all perception based. What part is slow? But we'll get to that. It's funny. I've had this idea about writing a blog post or discussing it on my podcast, and I haven't yet, and I will share it right now with the world. For those of you who have installed WordPress recently on some hosts are including Mojo Marketplace. Has anyone noticed that? Mm-hmm. No? So I'm currently with HostGator, and it's that's fine. I'm actually going to be leaving them shortly when I come up for contract in March. and I'm researching 2 new hosts. But so they install a plugin called Mojo Marketplace, and it's really, I think, detrimental to the new people who don't know any better. You go there. So I've had a couple clients contact me. They've bought a theme from Mojo Marketplace. And it's a service, and obviously the hosts are making a commission, which is fine. But if you're totally new to install WordPress, you don't know any better, you don't realize that there are 2,600 themes for free, because Mojo Marketplace kind of almost overrides, it takes precedence over the free themes from repository. I think it's just it's a little bit squishy as far as the approach that these hosts are doing. And that's not why I'm leaving HostGator. I've knock on wood. I'm actually pretty happy. I work with them, but they a couple things have changed in the past 3 to 6 months with their service and support because they were bought. So so Mojo Marketplace, not a fan of that auto. It's like almost. It's like I don't know. It seems like they're forcing people who don't know to go there to buy themes. When you can go you could find a lot of free themes that may work just as well. So.
Oh, I wonder what that was.
Disregard.
Okay.
All right. What about you, David? Anything in the WordPress world the past month that's taken your eye?
Yeah, I'm very interested in LoopConf. If anyone has not heard, there's a new conference being put together by Ryan Sullivan of WP Site Care. First off, I find it very interesting because I kind of exist in a space that can almost be a direct competitor to the kind of work that Ryan does, but I'm very respectful of the type of work he does at WP Site Care. I'm very interested to see this new conference that he's created specifically for WordPress developers. So we have to balance out our meetups and our WordCamp to fit a great deal of users. And that's great for me. I get to talk with business people, marketers, bloggers, designers, all sorts of people who don't do the kind of work I do. But I mean, every once in a while, I want to talk shop. I haven't decided if I'm going to attend this one, but I'm going to watch it regardless whether or not I'm there. He already has a great lineup of people who are involved.
Where and when?
It's going to be it's going to be in Las Vegas, and I can't recall if it's May 2015. I don't know the exact dates.
Cool.
The 6 speakers that are confirmed right now, I'm using a cheat sheet right here. Andrew Nason, Helen Husandi, John Nolan, Syed Balki, Jen Schiffer, and Joost de Valk.
So some new people to the area.
Yeah. I mean, I know you might have to go look them up. You may have never heard of any of these.
Never heard of any of them.
But
I know Saeed, yeah.
I bet they're pretty good. I'm sure they'll be fine.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I might go. Actually, I might not understand everything that's said, but I think, but May in Las Vegas isn't too bad. I wouldn't, So, John, what about you? Anything that's catched your eyes, news-wise, in the WordPress world?
Yes, and I don't know if you guys have covered this before, but something that happened recently was the Theme Forest and Vado Marketplace. They are now requiring or encouraging their theme builders to offer some sort of support package. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the type of thing that is really needed for theme developers to evolve like how we perceived marketplace of themes. Because before, I think it was a lot of people selling themes for $50 or $45, and there's a lot of good theme writers that kind of graduate to having their own theme website and use Theme Forest as a launching pad. But the one thing that is true is you're not really paying for the theme, you're paying for the support. That as WordPress evolves, you need to keep updating the themes so that things are secure. Alongside that, the slider revolution debacle. Because sliders that are like packaged in these themes on Theme Forest, they're not automatically updated. And a majority of people who are not developers, and even some people who are developers, don't think to update those. So I think we're going to see the beginning of the next step of how we look at theme building, best practices, and how the whole community looks at that.
I think that's a great point, John, and I was going to slightly bring it up, but not as well as you have in our main discussion. I think one of the things that I've found is the Tom Thumb um, uh, discussion. That's been a notorious security threat, and there's still active themes from. I don't know them, so I can't name them. But I've been told there's active themes still utilise it, and even though the developer says he doesn't use it himself anymore, and he doesn't support it. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
So what did you what did you think about that, John?
I think it kind of clarified something because a lot of people still are using it, and I come across themes, clients that are still using Tim Thumb, and I see a lot of the themes out in the wild that are still using it, and the plugin author Binary Moon, he had to tell people like, no, I'm not supporting this anymore. I haven't been supporting it, so don't use it anymore. And I think that's the thing with plugins and themes is like once they're not actively supported anymore, you kind of have to like move to the next option.
Okay. So what did you think about that, David? I thought that was quite interesting.
I mean, it was definitely it's a statement that he probably. I'm sure he made that statement a while. Sorry, I just got a little feedback. I'm sure he wished he made that statement a while ago because he'd said he hadn't been using it for a while. There might be a way to integrate an update to it that will allow people to learn about the new version, even if there's an update that just places a notification in the dashboard saying, don't use this anymore, use something else or something. But I understand that building a tool that's not even its own plugin or theme, just building an add-on for one, it's difficult to control how everyone's going to use it.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation, but it must be strange for a developer that spent a lot of time developing something, and at some stage they kind of say, I'm trying to find the diplomatic wording. They kind of deny, it's no longer anything to do with me. It must be a kind of strange situation. What do you think, Adam?
Honestly, I'm not as familiar with the topic at hand. I do know that I've seen these plugins. Actually, I guess I do know more than I think. I had 2 instances recently where I've installed a theme for a client, and we take it for granted that it's easy for us to do. But both themes in question had 4 other plugins that had to be installed and managed, and I was like, wow, that's just a lot for a newbie to then have to remember to do later.
And you don't like your plugins, Adam. You go very bare, don't you?
No, actually. So I'm actually working with a client now who had 25 plugins from WordPress 2.84, and because there was a plugin that the previous developer installed that says turn off all notifications, core and WordPress plugins, themes, plugins, themes, core, and everything. So turn off notifications. So the client never knew how far back they were, and literally.
It must be a bit of my work.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing how from 25 plugins we're down to 9, and I have to keep some of them because of what the theme doesn't offer. Menuing, administration stuff, it's crazy. So yeah, I think adding plugin requirements is it's one thing to have custom post types in a within a theme, but adding plugins as a requirement is a bit ballsy. I'll just say it that way.
Well, everybody to their view. But so I think we covered some interesting topics. So I'd just quickly like to get on to the main one and go through the panel and get their initial perspective of the main subject. And the main subject is, I do talk to various developers, those in the Joomla, Drupal, expression engine area, and I get some feedback that WordPress can be slow, and I think it's extremely unfair. And but I firstly want to go through the panel and see if they agree with me is that there is a slight reputation, why that's been caused, And yeah, so we start with Adam. What do you think?
It's interesting. So what is slow? What's the perception of slow? Slow for loading speed? Slow for, I mean, obviously we can go down that rabbit hole. But that said, ironically, if I have a note for my own podcast, I'm doing some research on why WordPress has gone from a base install of about 11 megabytes back at 2.8 to 33 now. I find that fascinating. So what's changed? Is it the theme, the default themes that come with it? Is that part of the slowness? I mean, I don't know. But I've seen some sites that are slow. 25 plugins, that's a slow site. Every time it calls to the database. It also is it the host, is it the connection? Everyone's perception is different. Wi-Fi versus hardwire. I mean, right now I'm hardwired in for this to make sure I don't have any dropouts, and I'm getting 30 megabyte up and down is what I have. So I'm lucky, but most people may not have that. So, what's slow to me may be super fast to my mom.
Right, so Dave, what's your perspective on all this? Do you agree with some of the things I've just said, or you think I'm talking absolute rubbish, or what's your perspective?
No, I absolutely agree. There's perception. I mean, people have known for a few years now that speed of a site directly correlates to how many people will convert on it, even how many people will find it in the first place. Especially, when Google made the announcement that they were, what was that, 3-4 years ago, that they were going to use speed as a larger ranking. I'm sure it's gotten even higher now. I think the perception that WordPress is slow is from people who have looked at a lot of sites that have been bogged down by extraneous code, whatever that code may be. The discussion that I just had about an hour ago, we were talking about ways that we might optimize sites, and the things I talked about were, one, I focus on a very minimal design for my clients. I don't go with all the flashy things that I use animations flying in. So I try to remove extraneous elements as needed. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just it was a bit of English humour, Dave. So you're not in the bling world. You don't like your bling
world. Oh, we don't bling so much. No. The second thing is I focus strongly on mobile first. I mean, for our clients, they may not realize it because we're working on our desktops and they're showing me their sites on their desktops. But so many of them get more of their traffic from mobile now. If it's something that does not translate well to mobile, I have to question if it's necessary on the website at all.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Smart.
Right. What about John? What's your view on this?
I don't think WordPress is inherently slower than any other platform. I think perhaps some of those opinions are coming from, perhaps people who perceive that WordPress is, kind of a stepchild of real programming. And
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because honestly, it's right there with everything else. Honestly, I don't think you'd have almost a quarter of the entire web being powered by it if it was some garbage software. As everyone else mentioned as well, it's a lot of factors with speed. If you're on shared hosting on some crappy host, yeah, it's gonna be slow, and that's gonna happen no matter if you run WordPress or Joomla or Drupal or have a custom build. Now, I think you have to be careful with the type of theme that you select. If you get an all-in-one theme that's got 25 sliders and 17 drop downs and all these things, it's going to be built with a ton of code that you're not going to need. I think the future of themes is going to be more specialized and laser focused and more lean, and just giving developers the ability to add what they need. There are a few things that can slow you down. I think it's an overall indictment of the web industry as a whole, because as a whole, our web pages are getting bigger and bigger. And I don't think that that's just WordPress. I think that's everyone. I think WordPress makes it easy to make pages that are like 1.5 megabytes per page, and we don't even realize we're doing it, because at where we're at, like at home, we might have a good connection and a good computer, but we have to realize that our users are not always going to have that. We have to be really careful on mobile, like what we're allowing to download. And maybe we should be taking more of a mobile, like load stuff for mobile first, and it's on a desktop computer conditionally load like larger images instead of the other way around.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. Shall we cut Bill, folks? Hey, Bill.
Yeah, I was working on Uber conferences. I don't know if you guys know what that is.
No.
Well, I did because I found it out. So, what's your position on speed, Bill, as a user, as a podcaster? You've, even as a beginner, or you're now intermediate user.
Right.
You're really focused on speed now, Bill, aren't you?
Right, and your page is really turned around and you have a lot of speed. I've been interested in speed for over a year because that's where you get a market. That's where people stick with you. You've got to get their attention immediately. And I use Genesis with Dynamic, and I like a limited number of plugins, actually. And Genesis, of course, has a lot in the background that it does in Dynamic for automatic backing up, things of that nature. So anyway, speed's important. That's how you get business and revenue. And those who don't know it, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a real simple system for podcasters where they can go in and maybe get Genesis and Dynamic and start podcasting. Because a lot of them cannot do WordPress. They can podcast but can't WordPress, and you can't really grow your podcast without having the basics of WordPress. Start collecting, names, addresses, things of that nature.
That's fascinating to know, Bill. All right, there we go.
I think isn't the study show that people give 3 seconds?
Yeah.
Was it Dave? I forgot. Let's see. Is it Dave that said it? Yeah, Dave. So isn't the theory that people stay on a site for 3 seconds? If it doesn't load in them, people are gone, and that's that direct correlation between potential conversion and whatever that conversion may be.
Right, and then the first 8 seconds that they're on the site is when they make that decision if they're leaving or not.
Right. I mean, I had a plugin running on Kitchen Sink WP when it went. So I had the site for a while. It was really small potatoes a year and a half ago, and then I told WordCamp that it would be live. LA WordCamp when I spoke at, it would be live by WordCamp. So I had to get off my duff and get it going. And I had a plugin for a calendar for upcoming events, and at the time I was getting very small hits, and now I'm getting it's ramping up. And I did a speed test through Pingdom, and it was 16. One plugin was taking 12 seconds to load. So I obviously killed the plugin, and then they came back and they rewrote it, actually, apparently, and I went and put it back on. But, 12 seconds for one plugin killed me. And I didn't know idea until I started doing some testing. So people do, if there's an issue, there's an issue. I noticed the Facebook plugin sometimes slows sites down.
Yeah.
But yeah, you gotta, 3 seconds, tops. It's sad, but I think that's where we're at. So you don't want the sites to crawl like a baby. It's got to be somewhat responsive there.
So I think more of us are. I'm sorry.
Go on, Dave. Speak.
I think more of us are coming from this from a developer standpoint. And we developers, we prize our tools.
Right.
We make sure we have some good hardware so that we can get work done, and we make sure we have a good internet connection so that we don't have to take forever to get work done. We're lazy, which in a good way.
I run locally on an SSD. My sites are fast.
Right, exactly. So any developer worth their salt is doing emulation for their responsive sites. If you're working on you do emulation at least. Any developer who's worth their salt and has some extra money to blow actually buys physical devices, and they do their testing on those. And that's great. That means you can see, does it work on these devices. Now, I work from a workspace where I have a gigabit internet connection. I have better internet than I have at home. Every once in a while, I have to get out of the house, grab my laptop, tablet, and phone, and head down to the nearest Starbucks and load my websites and take a look at them there. And see what happens if JavaScript is disabled because it's insecure or something like that. I have to see what people who are really going to be using it are really going to see. That I can't always do that with the assumption that everyone's going to have that gigabit internet connection.
Right then, folks. So I'm going to say a couple things that I'm not totally sure that I'm just going to throw out a couple of observations and then see what my guests think of the observations. And first of all, I think a lot of this has been caused by Theme Forest, not because of the fact that it's a marketplace, but I think for obvious business choices and priorities, the structure of that marketplace hasn't, for a while, hasn't been to the benefit of the wider WordPress community, and how it has operated, and also the most popular themes on there really go totally against the what has kind of been stated by some of the WordPress leadership in the community. You know, like I think there's Theme X, and so I was listening to a podcast, and the owners of that theme said they've sold over $1 million worth on Theme Forest, and it's one of these themes that's got 20 sliders and endless options. But it's been very, very popular on the Theme Forest and with the people that buy. So, and also Automatic never really decided to develop their own commercial theme marketplace that was directly under their control, and I think that has been a mistake. So I've been slightly controversial here, but I'm trying to keep it sensible. So what do my guests think of the couple of statements I made? And I'm going to start with Adam.
Interesting. Well, it's true. I mean, you know, Automatic has their place in what they do, obviously. But as far as Theme Forest goes, I mean, do we know what is the most popular downloaded theme or purchased theme? Anyone know?
I think
in the past year, Theme X.
It's Theme X.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean.
Prior to that, Avada.
Yeah, see, so there you go. So that's the theme I'm working with for 2 clients right now. One client just bought it, and they asked me to install it. I'm like, okay, great, and you know they have actually a decent host, and now they're actually saying they very well may switch over to Squarespace. I'm thinking, totally fine. I'd almost rather them go to Squarespace than for me to support Avada again. I'm like, because I already have another client with it, and she has gone crazy with trying to customize it. It's just so many options. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I tell clients, if you can get a theme that gets you really close to what you want for the investment of under $100, great, go with it. After that, there's specific things that you want, then you might want to do a custom theme. You know, there's no way for me to support 2,600 themes for free or even 100 paid. It just, you know, just too many options, too many things to know. And that's, you know, I try to pick 1 or 2 that I know really well, and I use a certain framework. You know, Bill uses Genesis. I'm a Headway guy. For my client base, that works for me. Is Headway the greatest? No, it doesn't work for every little thing, and there's tweaks and quirks in it as well. I love it for what I do with my clients. But yeah, the Avada thing, it's a thorn in my side right now.
All right then, Dave. What did you think of my statement?
So I can be since you're the host, I'll let you be neutral. I'll put my opinions out for you. So, true, Automatic did not enter the space with their own theme marketplace. They instead decided to go through the acquisition route with Mojo, which, you know, as we've noted, you know, is showing up in some of our things for us.
Does Automatic own Mojo?
My understanding is they do, yeah.
I didn't know that.
They've kept it very semi-quiet, haven't they?
I think they own. I mean, don't they own a couple of? I don't want to speak out of place here. I believe they own a couple of them actually through acquihires. But regardless, I'll skip over to talk about Theme Forest some. So with my company, we almost exclusively use Genesis and underscores as our starter themes. We have 2 code bases that we know very well that we can work with very quickly and efficiently. Theme Forest in itself is not a bad place, but we were just looking at there's almost 17,000 different themes on Theme Forest. I'm going to assume that, let's say the average author puts 2 themes up, no idea what the number is, but I'll say that's at least 8,000 different developers out there, 8,000 different code ideologies, 8,000 different levels of experience, 8,000 different best practices, and so on. They are not inherently bad, but I agree, you can't maintain that many code bases as the hub to work with those different themes. Some of them I would say are inherently bad, but in general, I can't lump everyone in there.
No, you can't. Go on then, John. Put your in what on my statements, my incorrect statements.
Okay, here's my 2 cents. Theme forest, as David said, is not inherently bad in itself. But here's how clients perceive the web design process is go to theme forest, find something that looks like what they envision in their mind, and approach a developer and have them build it out for them. And where the problem lies is when we as developers and as agencies also use the same process to pick a theme, because we're picking themes based on what we're picturing in our mind. But unless you've worked with a theme already, you don't know how it's going to be until you open that package and start building on it.
Right.
And I think that, as Adam said, and David said, that if we can work with things that we're already familiar with and kind of slowly expand out, that would be better. Maybe work with themes from certain like trusted theme shops that we already know and that we know that are going to be supported and be maintained, and kind of like slowly expand out from there. Because we as developers can, we can make things like happen. We don't need to have it all wrapped up in a shiny package.
Right. I mean, that said, real quick, this on the same concept. Two things here, real quick. Not to sorry to interrupt, but
go ahead.
Bill Erickson out of Texas, he realized this really early on that he makes the most amount of his money. He spoke about it at WordCamp. He has a video on it, and I love his concept. He does a website, 2 weeks. His rate, I think, is at $3,000 now, he only uses Genesis as core. He outsources the design. I mean, here's a list of designers, and he's very specific because that's where he knows he can make his income, period. And it makes sense. If you're a developer, the clients don't care what we use, how we use it. All the clients care about, really, my perspective, my 2 cents here, is they want what they want. Obviously, they want what's agreed upon in the scope of work, timeline, and within the budget agreed upon. They don't care how we do it. We don't care who does it. They don't care. If it's me as a team leader and I outsource it to you or outsource it to somebody else, there's that. So it doesn't matter what we're using. For the most part, he uses Genesis because he knows it inside and out. He knows how to take the pieces and make it look the way it's supposed to look based on what the design was signed off on. Additionally, real quick, someone just sent me a message privately. I know some people at Automatic. They're watching this right now. They don't believe in.
Completely wrong.
Yeah, well, the Automatic does not own Mojo. Apparently, I'm not gonna say any names. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. They do premium themes for WordPress.com only, obviously. So, but they don't own any theme shops to this person's knowledge. So, just as a sideline.
I think we got a new guest, Bill.
Someone just come in.
Yes. Who have we got?
Jack.
Oh, hello, Jack. So, have you been listening to the conversation, and what's your perspective?
You're cutting out for me.
You're cutting out. Oh, he might come back. We never know, do we?
Chad, hang in there.
Hang in there. That's what I say. That's what I say to all my girlfriends. Right. So do you feel why is Theme X so popular? Can in the I'm not just gonna keep on about this. We've got to move on with the conversation. But I find it. I don't fully understand why Theme X is the most popular, but it is. It's sold a ton. Any perspective from my guess why is Theme X on Theme Forest so popular?
I have no idea. I'm sorry. I mean, I'll be fully transparent. I had barely heard of it. I'm like, it sounds very familiar, but I don't spend a whole lot of time in Theme Forest. I'm dealing with custom themes that were written back in 2009 lately.
I think ThemeX is as popular as it is for the same exact reason that Avada was as popular as it was. If you are a company who wants to get something that everyone wants that balance between price and flexibility. So everyone wants the custom theme developed, but they don't actually want to pay to get that custom theme developed. So how about you download something that costs you, $50, $60, where you can do that customization, that development yourself by clicking an option panel in the back. Again, that's my understanding is that the theme is coded rather well. I admit I've not used it for any client sites. I've only seen people working on it. So I could be completely wrong. It could be terrible code. It could be amazing code. Having all those options isn't necessarily bad, but in the WordPress world, we come from that idea of decisions, not options. We want to, be able to say, well, every page is going to look like this, so don't give them the option to make pages look like that. I think that's just the average consumer. They don't care about what we do, and they should have no reason to have to care about what we do. They want the thing to look like the way they want it, and they want to do it on budget.
Right. What about you?
$63. Yeah, I just looked at it real quick. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, John?
I've kind of vaguely heard of ThemeX. I'm not familiar with it. I don't spend a lot of time in ThemeForest just browsing around. But it's probably popular for the reason that was just stated, is that it's a lot of options. And I think a lot of clients, when they first decide that they want a website, they kind of do a little do it yourself and figure they're going to help you out by choosing the theme. And I think that we have to get involved right from the very start in when we do our discovery process. Then tell them, hey, I'm going to help you choose the best theme for this, and not let them kind of override us and jump that process of, figuring out what they actually need, because I think that does happen a lot.
Yeah, I think you made all excellent points. I just think it's a very difficult situation, and there's different forces moving people, developers, people in different directions, and that's why I think the whole situation is extremely volatile and very fragmented. I think that's the basic, and it's not clear where all this is going to end up and where it's going. One of the things that interests me is the use of frameworks and why frameworks are necessary where you got WordPress, and why so many developers choose to, you already got a very complicated and very well tested framework called WordPress, and then a lot of developers choose for various reasons to utilize another framework upon the framework. That's always I've been looking at Genesis myself, and I keep saying I'm going to really commit myself, and then I think to myself, why should I have to commit myself? And I don't want to commit myself to a very great company, but a company that is a private company called Studio Press. I want to stay with Core. I just wondered what the views and experiences and why you use frameworks, and how you, in the more wider attitude to frameworks, your feelings about having to use a secondary framework upon a main framework. Can I start with Adam again?
Sure. So this is a great question. Honestly, I chose it because the way my brain works and the way what I needed 4 or 5 years ago for my photography side of my business. I needed something. I needed a new site. I was running flat HTML. It was time to update and change, and I didn't see anything I liked, but I did see a site I liked, and I looked at the code, and it said it was Headway. So I kind of started. Actually, at first I saw one in Thesis, and then I checked them out, and I'm like, okay, but then they put a remarketing tag on my browser everywhere I went, and they were just hard sell. So then I found a site I liked. I was Headway. I looked at it, and it made sense to me for what I needed. And based on that, sure, I could have learned the framework of Core and the pages and PHP and all the way it works in the loop, but I wasn't doing as much WordPress then as I am now. so I chose what I chose to make my life easier, and then I started teaching a bit and telling people and evangelizing, and that's just the progression of. And then I just decided, you know what? Like Bill Erickson, I'm going to pick one and get to know it really well. And then, of course, once I got to know it really well, Headway completely rewrote it. I'm like, dang it! And it's actually worked out. I mean, they did a great job in the rewrite, and they've rewritten it twice, the core of Headway. But and that's what I teach. I mean, so it's the Bill Erickson methodology. It's the same thing. It's like get to know something well, and it works for me for speed, for the way my brain works, and the way many of my clients' brains work. They like to see something visual. Header, footer, block, widgets, you know, wherever I want it. Could I do that manually? Absolutely. Do I want to? Nah.
All right. Chad, have you sorted out your sound?
Hear me
It's better.
better?
Not much.
Not much, Chad.
Still clear.
I think God doesn't
I don't
want
believe
it.
it's a sound issue, though, but it sounds like a lagging issue.
It's a lagging issue,
Bandwidth.
Chad.
We can all pretend to do that. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
It's a bandwidth. We're going to come back to you in a second. Look at your bandwidth.
That always baffles me, though. His picture is so good.
Yeah.
Your picture is excellent.
So turn off your picture and try.
Okay.
Like the soldier one next door.
Yeah. Go on, Dave. On to you, because Chad needs to sort some stuff out.
Well, I think that no, I'm just kidding. I think that sorry. I chose Genesis after trying a lot of different things. We did a lot of custom themes. We spent a lot of time customizing themes from Theme Forest or from wherever else, and quickly realized that it's a duplication of efforts to have to relearn how this theme handles the homepage, for instance. I could either have a front page file. I could be using a standard page. I could be using widgets to control it, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many different ways to manage something. So I decided to stick with one code base, and what attracted me to Genesis in the first place was the hooks, because I'm already so used to using hooks from WordPress core, and I felt that they did hooks very well. I felt that they've taken a good approach to deprecation of functionality, so they'll still technically work even though they don't use the term post anymore. They use the term entry now. It matched my development process well, and it's a great way to avoid doing a lot of extra work. So I could easily write my own custom theme that I reuse for a lot of projects, but instead I have a custom Genesis child theme that lets me build atop what other people have done. The best way I can say why I use a framework on top of a framework is why am I using that framework, WordPress, in the first place, to save me time from custom developing every single site. I think it's just a natural extension.
Yeah, I think that's well put, actually. What do you think, John?
I know a lot of people that use Genesis. I have a lot of friends that swear by it, and it works for them. And I do see the advantage in not having to relearn each individual theme. I myself just use regular WordPress. Either I will do custom themes from underscores or starkers, or I will use the theme from a theme shop that I'm already familiar with, if I have a choice. I get the reason why, because you want to cut down the time involved in the process. And by using something like Genesis, or Thesis back in the day, I totally get it. I think for me though, I like having the versatility of being able to use other solutions. So that's why I don't use Genesis. But I totally understand why people do. So
yeah, you would, because you've got some really heavy Genesis people in your group, haven't you? You've got some real heavy hitters, haven't you? They're real Genesis fans, haven't you?
Yeah, in the Sacramento group we do, and it looks like also in our panel we do as well. And I totally get that. There's a large segment of the WordPress community that's Genesis works for them really well. So
May I interject with another comment?
Yeah,
go
sure.
ahead.
No.
Sure.
I'm kidding.
Go for it.
Okay.
Go for it.
Well, I'm going to anyway. So people seek my company out because we use WordPress. I specifically bill us as a WordPress shop as opposed to just a website shop. I also, business development, things like that. But I don't go as far as Bill Erickson does and say I am a Genesis developer. One of my friends, Jesse Peterson, here in Florida, does the same thing. He is a Genesis feature developer. That said, I have had clients come to us before and say, we want a WordPress site built in Genesis, and that's why we found you. So while we don't specifically bill ourselves as a Genesis shop, I think it's absolutely helped us with clients at certain times who already understand that language. Most clients don't, but when they do, it's like magic.
Yeah.
And it's an easier sell, much easier.
I like it when it's like magic when they just say, our budget is, $10,000.
That's it.
That's the kind of magic I like. It's not enough of them in Reno, unfortunately. Well, to be more serious, David, my position is this. I really think Studio Press are a great company, and I think they provide excellent support, and they are extremely reputable company, what I've seen and observed, and they like their Starbucks coffee, and but it's a private company, and obviously if they did disappear, which is very unlikely, somebody would take over. Probably Genesis would become an open source kind of setup in its own right, but probably, or if they didn't sell it, somebody bought it. But it is a private company, and the whole thing about WordPress was it was open source, and you get all the benefits of open source. You're not enclosed into a priority kind of software from a private company. And, we do have these like Wix and these, that offer kind of WikiWiz editors, but I think people are naive. What they don't realise is that they're being sucked into a private world, and if that company closes down or something happens to it, it might not be easy to get their business platform moved to somewhere else. What do you think of that, Dave, or do you just think I'm talking shit?
If you're talking WordPress or any WordPress-related company, I don't want to say you're talking shit. I just want to say that I think that might be a little untrue. I absolutely value the openness of WordPress. I've had clients who've needed to move away from it, and it's a lot easier than, say, Blogspot. Blogspot was a pain for a while to get data out of. It's actually gotten a lot easier. They've made improvements there. But I think giving people that option to leave is much more a testament to your strengths than some people realize. Saying, oh, no, if you want your data and you want to get rid of us and you want to do whatever you want, go and click this button and here's all of your data for you in a CSV or an XML file or the SQL file. Enjoy. Yeah. And I'm going, oh, wow, if this person makes it that easy for me, then they must think that their system's pretty good, that I won't do that.
Well, I'm gonna try Chad. Go on, speak. Have you sorted out?
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's a little weird. What'd you do?
I changed browsers, changed audio interfaces. I'm just using the built-in mic on my headphones now instead of the fancy mic and audio interface I tried before. I tried a new thing and it didn't work. So, anyway, I'm here.
Yay.
So we're talking about frameworks and themes and which one's the best. Is that what today's hangout is?
So, Chad, you have to introduce yourself.
All right.
You've got to introduce yourself first.
I'm going to turn on my little tab. There we go. My name is Chad Bush. I run a full-service website development and design and also graphic design agency in Tucson, Arizona. So I build websites for businesses, nonprofits, all of a variety of stripes. So far it's just me. I don't have a staff. I am growing my business, and at some point I'll probably hire somebody, but right now it's me, and I do collaborate with other designers and developers for larger projects sometimes. So I've been doing WordPress development and design, solopreneur. Thanks for the word. Yeah, I'm a solopreneur. I've been doing this for about 16 years, and I've been doing the WordPress stuff for about 8 years. Before that I tried, I did HTML flat stuff, and then I did Drupal and Joomla and a handful of other CMSs before. Yeah.
And then you saw the light. You saw the light, didn't you?
Well, yeah. Well, WordPress also came of age and became more usable as a CMS. You know, it wasn't in its early years, really. I don't think so. I have dabbled with some of the theme frameworks. I frankly don't like them for my own work because I can usually do with code everything that the framework control panels allow me to do a lot more efficiently and quickly and in a more flexible way. So, I mean, I would maybe at some point write a framework and release it. I saw someone here, David, you have a custom child theme. I have my own custom starter theme. I don't do child themes anymore unless the project really calls for it, because I did that before and it didn't really save me any work. But I'm probably going to open source my starter theme and put it on GitHub, because there's no reason not to. It'll just, the community will help me make it better. So far I haven't. I just got onto version control for all my work like 3 months ago, so I'm still catching up with the times. But I said I don't use theme frameworks or stock themes, I call them, for any of my client work, except I use Canvas, and I've played around with Genesis a little for wireframes, because with a wireframe there's no design, there's no graphics, and I need a quick way to, you know, wireframes, website planning, that's often a separate part of a job depending on, you know, how big the job is. And I think one of those themes like Canvas is great for just banging out a black and white mock-up that's a functional, surfable mock-up of a site without any real content on it. But then I would actually custom design from my own starter theme, the site from there, and just throw away the Canvas version completely. I might keep actually I'd probably just add new pages. And I found it's so tedious to get what my client needs and what I want using any framework, child theme or not. It's just easier. That said, every now and then there will be a WordPress update, like the recent one with TinyMCE, finally getting the current version, that will go and break some of my old themes, and then I'll have to go retrofit them. But that hasn't happened very much. I think developers who use best practices and try to use WordPress built-in functions whenever possible and avoid using crazy custom queries unless you really need to. I haven't really had too much break over 8 years. I mean, I had that one instance with the TinyMCE. I had to go back because I had some customized TinyMCEs in my themes that weren't done with best practices. And I went and retrofitted those. Yeah.
Are you using Tom Thumb?
No. Not at all. I don't use Tim Thumb or any. No, I used to use Next Gen Gallery. I know, back before it was changed, and that's another thing I had.
Are you sure, Chad? You're not using Tom Thumb?
No, not Tom Thumb. I use WordPress's default gallery, and I was rewriting the gallery shortcode until version 4 came out. I had I took a block of code. I took the stuff right out of the core and made filters and had it rewrite what it puts out on the front end. But I like, now that they added HTML5 and got rid of their crap code for the output of the default gallery, I just use the default gallery's code as is and style it. I've actually been using masonry.js now for most of my galleries.
That's great, Chad.
Yeah.
So, I think Bill's left it. No, sorry. So,
I kind of went off on a tangent there anyway.
You did, but it's understandable. You're very enthusiastic. We all are. I'm English, so it doesn't always show, but I am enthusiastic. I promise. So we've got a very diverse thing, but what I also I'm going to ask this question to David Pacific, is that I think Studio Press, I have my certain worries about it, but I think it's a great company, and I think they have got a balance. But I think Thesis, they went a bit too far. Would you agree with that? That like Studio Press have found, and with Genesis have found a kind of middle way, but Thesis they went, and why did they go? If you agree with my statement, why did they go like a bridge too far? That's to Dave.
Okay, well, first I will fully own up. I built a theme framework a few years ago that did employ Tim Thumb.
It was you.
I've used it in the past, yes.
Coming out, Dave. All your sins are coming out.
And well, I mean, I feel openness is very important, but I also feel that means that you can just ignore everything I say after this with no regrets. I was never big into thesis, and that's a personal bias. I am not an SEO person, and it bores me to death. Actually, it more than bores me. Sometimes it annoys me to talk SEO. I'm like, I don't care about that. I care about making stuff that looks nice and that it's well coded and that's whatever. And then I have to realize that most people don't care. They want to make sure that it's on Google and then they make sales, understandably. So Thesis went that route of billing itself specifically for SEO. Which was a brilliant marketing strategy for them because they could get the people who didn't care about, or not didn't care, but their main focus was not beautiful code, beautiful design, but on traffic-driven converting websites. Genesis has gone the route of saying we have beautiful code, we keep it up to date. We have a world-class designer making all of our themes. They look, they all look great. They go for that. They go for that other route, which, again, I constantly have to balance how many of us, when we have conversations like this, or when I have conversations at WordCamps, how many of us talking to each other are developers, and we represent less than 1% of the population of WordPress users in the world. We can end up in this little echo chamber of being like, oh no, this one's totally the best. No, this one's the best, and all of our clients, they couldn't care less about any of that.
Yeah, I think it's a great answer, but there was something about Thesis that just went too far. And I know, I'm not going to go over old spilt milk because it's just boring. But they got into a spat with Matt, and but it's all done and finished with, and we all move on, don't we? But there was something. My position is that I have a small lot. Basically, it's about price. If I have a client that doesn't want, it's not going to be a big job, and they're not one of these clients that's going to suck a tremendous amount of time, but they have got a small budget, I try and match them up with a commercial theme shop with a theme that I believe that the code base is good and the theme shop does good work, and then I do a bit of customization. If the budget will allow, I have a set of kind of free basic responsive themes that are kind of bare bone, and I use Foundation as my responsive kind of framework, and I've kind of built in Foundation into these free basic responsive bare themes that I use, and I can rapidly prototype, and depending, they normally either work with a designer or they've got some design assets, and I work those in to the layout, and I do very detailed frameworking before, so we're not wasting too much time when we go into production. And what I also have found, I insist now that all the written assets and all assets, we work those out beforehand. And we've got that. I don't actually think you can do a design without the assets, without you knowing what the assets are going to be. It's like you're just throwing something up and you don't know what they're going to be providing. So, what do you folks think of what I've just stated? Do you think, this is how I've been working for about a year now, and it's been working a bit better for me.
Well, let me chime in on the assets. I'll reiterate how Bill Erickson did it, and that's what I'm just going to copy him. I mean, there's no reason, I'm just going to mimic what he's doing, and that's what I'm trying to do. A similar thing is for my little studio that I'm building a small team. I've outsourced 2 jobs recently because I don't have enough time, and
well, you didn't give them to me.
No, sorry. But maybe next time. But so
no, you're not stupid.
Yeah, Bill Erickson, his process is really smart. 2 weeks, website's done. 50% to be on the calendar, the balance due 2 weeks later when he's done. And he lets you, if you're the client, he lets the client leave. I guess he has a server, subdomain is it out. Client can add their content, their photos, their whatever they want, as long as they need. He gets paid. His work is done. Just because, I've had this issue also. Well, we want to change this. We want to change this. My work is done as a developer when I'm done, that they've agreed upon. When everything's ready to go live, he will push it live to a list of 5 services that he knows, like the hosts that he's comfortable with, and pushes it live, make sure, and then tests it. If it's not one of those, he gives you a half an hour of his time after that's billable. Because I think we also, as developers and designers and solopreneurs, we try to take it all, but we have to be paid for our time and expertise and resource. But he has it so his work is done, client can then add assets as needed for as long as they need. So, I've had that same issue where people are like, oh, I don't have everything ready. Heck, right now my wife works for a nonprofit, and the company that they're using, not me, it's a whole other story. They are asking for every asset in the book before they, as a process, and they keep delaying the project. And I think I think you have to be careful on that. As developers, we need to be careful. Specifically say, either I take all the assets up front before I start, or you use dummy content, just lorem ipsum or bacon ipsum, whatever you want to use, any ipsum you want to use to get the site done. And then it gets filled in after, because otherwise it's a battle between waiting and getting it done, and I don't have time for that.
All right, Chad. Keep it sweet, Chad, but give us your perspective on, am I talking nonsense or what? Go for it. And you've got your mic switched off.
Yeah, I was trying to keep from ejecting noise into the room. I have a bird over here. So anyway, what exactly am I speaking to again? I've kind of sensed a little tangent here. What do you want me to speak to, Jonathan, specifically?
I just want to go what your process is, because basically we're talking about frameworks here, but I don't actually believe you can do the design process or the coding process unless you're aware of what the assets, what the page structure of the website's going to be, and what the assets.
Got it.
Andy Clark, quite a famous British web designer. This is what he does. He doesn't, unless gets 50% up front, but we're not working until we know what the page structure is and what we've got the content.
Yeah, I would have to agree that to some extent, at least the structure of the site, what the pages are going to be, and the general overall structure needs to be in place. And that, like I said, that's actually the only thing I use wireframes for, is that wireframing structure building. And I do that separately before I'll actually sometimes before I'll even sign a contract to do a full site, because sometimes doing that as a separate task can give me and the client a little chance to work together on a lower risk job, and they end up with a good site plan that they could take anywhere if they want, and I end up getting to know them, and then after that we have the structure in place, and I can do a better estimate and work up a better proposal for them that's more accurate based on that structure. Now, as far as having every single asset, I would love if that could actually happen, but I think that's a fantasy, at least in the work I've done. I've never had a client be able to provide every asset, and if I did, I think they would probably change what a lot of those were during the development process, because it's impossible to really know exactly what the final site's going to be throughout the development process until it's underway.
Yeah, I want to clarify on that. I think you're speaking total common sense there. I just want to clarify. I didn't mean it in 100% terms. I just want to see it, the balance. There's been some work done. There's been some thought done. It's not all going to be left to the last minute, because I think that does cause problems. Go on. I'm going to ask Dave. Unmic yourself, Dave. And do you think you can actually do a design and code the site out unless you've got some idea what's going to go in there?
So we do content-first development. We absolutely request assets up front. If the client does not have those assets, then we have it very clearly stated in our scope with them that they're responsible for getting those up before we do too much work. And if it doesn't fit in there, then that's on them. I've been bitten in the past from clients who go, oh, well, we actually want portrait photos here, not landscape photos, and now the design looks like that. Or, oh, well, this area needs 3 paragraphs of text, but you only made it for 1 sentence, and we would go, well, we had wireframes and you approved those like this. So we build things in milestone phases. Basically, we We'll say, this bit of wireframing goes first, then this bit of design, then this bit of development, and each one has to be approved separately. We have a variety of reasons. I can't go into all the reasons for why we do that, but it's worked out very well for us to say if we get into a development stage and suddenly this doesn't fit anymore and we have to go back to the wireframing stage, then you have to pay us to get back to that stage because you approved 2 stages in between here. You had multiple opportunities to make these changes. That's a very roundabout way of saying that I absolutely want that content up front. And if they don't have the exact content, 1, we can help them create the content, or 2, we can build around what the anticipated content will be with those caveats.
Oh, that was a great answer. Thanks. Go on, John. What's your
Jonathan, I am totally with you as far as getting the content first. I shared a couple links in the chat room if you guys want to check that out later. Basically, we've got this conception that design is about making things look good and then throwing stuff into a container. And maybe not the people like right here, but I'm saying like overall as an industry, we do get too focused on that. Because what design really does is like amplifies the message. And if we don't have the content, if we don't have the words, then we don't know like what that message is going to be or like how effective it's going to be. Because when it all comes down to it, whether it's like a video, a podcast, or words on a page, we have to connect. Our clients have to connect with their clients with that material, and if we don't have that, we are not going to be able to do our jobs efficiently. But getting the content up front is a real major issue that I think a lot of people are shifting toward that now. With my clients, like my personal clients, I try and always get all the content up front, and so far that's been like pretty successful. I think it's harder like the larger organization that you get, the larger the agency, you kind of have to keep things like going. Like the smaller you are, the more you can kind of like be firm in that request. But I think when you're booking time and the more money that's on the line, you have to keep the machine rolling, and that's where we kind of like we break down in holding our resolve to design and content first, because we just do lorem ipsum, and I think it's a grave mistake. So I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, I think I wanted to make it clear though, because I agree with everything that's been said on this particular subject. I try and get it up front, but the process also, there's going to be changes, and as long as I feel the client is working with me and we're moving forward, we're not stuck. They are trying their best to work with me. You've got to be a little bit flexible. So I just want to finish this discussion with we've talked about theme forest. We've talked about it's not the devil incarnate, but there's also some problems. How do you? I want to put this statement to you and get your feedback. I don't expect you to agree with it or agree with it, disagree with it, partially. There seems to be a dichotomy here. You go like what David said. You've got a lot of clients that want custom design, custom development, but they don't want to. Bill's moving, but they don't want to pay for it. And I think David's left us. Maybe I bored him to tears, but no.
Yeah, he had to go.
But they don't want to pay for it, or they can't pay for it, or whatever. So they go to theme. So I don't think the days of the $50 theme can keep on going. I think the prices, as requirements, education, I think the prices are going to go up. And how are markets? There seems to be some stress between markets and custom design. How do you see this working out in the next couple of years, or don't you think it's just going to continue as it is? Let's start with Adam.
So I am going to disagree in the sense that I think the theme forests of the world will still be around. I mean, we're only at 22 to 25% of saturation in WordPress. It'll grow, obviously. It's like 80 million sites. There are tons of people coming into it, tons of people who dabble, tons of people who aren't at the point where they need to hire someone like the panel here and to outsource any work yet, for one. I know people who pick up clients who start something on the side. They will go find someone, another client, a friend, a small business. They'll pick up a $50 theme and then charge $50 an hour to customize it to some extent and get it going. Great, that's a business model. That said, there's a great ebook that FreshBooks co-founder put out about value versus price, and what we bring to the table. And it changed. If I go and try to compete with a 22-year-old recent college student living back at home in a basement, for the client, they're going to charge $500. I might charge $5,000. What's the difference? Well, clients don't care my lifestyle. They just want what they need. The difference is value, experience, knowledge, how to get something done. Once again, so I don't think the theme forests are going to drop off the plate. I mean, look what happened. I mean, what's it called? Still around. Before theme forest, there was Template Monster. You remember? I mean, all those. They're still around. They sell WordPress themes now as well. They're just not as notable per se because they just aren't. At least not in my world anymore. But anyway, I don't think they're going to go away. I think they're still, because of what we're here, and there's so much more growth that WordPress has to do before, if at all, we'll see a change in that mentality. People want.
Do you think the prices are going to go up?
No, I don't. I don't think the price for basic themes. I mean, I think for premium themes, yeah, because you're not paying for the theme, you're paying for support. That's the difference between. That's the freemium model. You're paying for support. And that's what we used to pay for software. We used to pay $500 every time Microsoft Word came out, or Photoshop was $2,000 for the premium. Now there's a monthly. So the mentality is the app world changed things to $1 an app, but premium apps are $20, $30 for the app. If it's a tool, invest. I see it as an investment. So.
All right, Chad. I'm Mike. Give us your penny's worth.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I don't think that Theme Forest is even a competitor for my business. And actually, I have friends and family members, maybe close friends, who don't have a budget for the kind of websites that I do for a living. And I love sending them to Theme Forest or even WordPress.com, or frankly the frameworks, Canvas, Genesis. Although Genesis does require a bit more developers, some of the frameworks have really good themes for under $100, and I'd love to send people to them if that's what their budget is. And right. I find that the people who have a budget for what I do aren't even considering looking at that other stuff, and they know it. They know the difference, and it's a nice way to. I like having something that's still functional to be able to send someone to if they don't have the budget to work with me, and I want to help them out and give them at least a decent website. It's not going to be even in any way comparable to the service that I and the other developers that provide what I provide offer. It's just not. It's like a whole different economy.
I agree with you, Chad. Yeah. I can see your point of view. Yeah. Go on then, John. What's your penny's worth? Go on.
I'm kind of with Chad on this one. I don't see the Theme Forest as a competitor to what premium developers are doing, but I also agree with Adam that it's not going to go away, because there are going to be people that think that, or let me clarify, there's going to be clients, there's going to be businesses that feel that they should only invest $50 in their most important marketing tool.
Yeah, you're so right.
And
so
yes,
right.
and if that is like all that they value their number one marketing tool as, those are not the type of people that I want to work with, because they're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And I can't remember where I saw this stat, but it was an infographic I saw somewhere. 2% of people, like regular clients, non-developers, that attempt to build their own site using something like Theme Forest or whatever. Only 2% are successful in completing it. And I've seen that personally with a lot of people who have approached me. They started with something on Theme Forest and they thought they could handle it, and it's overcomplicated, or they don't have time, or they get stuck. They just hit a point where they don't know what to do, and you have to invest something.
I think you made some excellent points, John. Right, so folks, I think it's time to end it. I really thought our discussion has been good, and I've tried to keep my waffling down, but I've tried to keep things moving.
I could go for a waffle right now.
I'm really pumped up about going to San Francisco next weekend.
I'll be there.
I'll see you, Adam. I'll see you.
Jonathan, let's wrap it up by asking everyone just any final comments or information. I've got a few common notes.
Yeah, go on then. Let's wrap this up quick then. I'll start with Adam. What's your final comments and that?
I don't really have a value. It's not about, as far as themes go, it's about bringing value to the client, helping the client get what they need in a, as a resource. That's how I look at it.
All right, go on, Chad.
I agree with Adam. I'd say that whatever best serves the client's needs and is the best fit for the client's budget and needs is the best solution. And I don't think there's any one, monolithic solution that works for everything. And I think everything we've talked about today is viable for someone or another. And I think one of our jobs is to find the best fit for each client and for our own businesses and pair everything together appropriately.
Go on, John.
I think a simple theme is good for someone who's just starting out. But if it's an established company and you're just trying to spend $50 or $100 to build a website, it's a really kind of weird mentality to me.
Yeah.
Theme Forest will continue to exist, but I think the major thing that we offer is value as a partner, a business partner, and helping them, guide them, and not just taking orders from them. Like they go to Theme Forest, get a theme, and we just do what they tell us to do. We need to be an advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Go on then, Bill. You going to say something, Bill?
Yeah, I've got a couple comments at the end. Just playing around. I think we're starting to develop the Google Hangout process to get more interaction with people who are actually watching and listening, and there's some areas that we might go. So if people have some ideas, email me. Also is to come up with on your website, Jonathan, so we put in everyone's name who was invited into the Google Plus Hangout so people know who they are, how they can connect, and things of that nature, like the hub. And then finally, I've got two other elements I want to talk about. Adam?
Yes.
Take about 25 minutes. Do you have time this weekend to do the 25-minute interview anytime?
Yeah.
We can do it in 15 minutes from now if you like, and we'll do it on Skype. Okay. Secondly, I'd like to invite everybody in to do an interview for Timelines of Success. It's a 25-minute interview, and it'll help your business. It'll drive people to it. It's another link. I'm getting pretty good. This was politics week. I interviewed a lot of people here running for mayor, the congressman I've interviewed. So it's been a weird week about what they do, but Timelines is about what people do for profession, and then it's for the people who won't do that, so it's just a little storytelling.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that Bill is an excellent podcaster. He's an excellent interviewer. He's a natural at it.
My biggest problem right now is figuring out how to edit faster, and so I'm developing some processes, especially with WP-Tonic, which is a small podcast. I'm experimenting with it.
Is that because of my waffling, Bill?
No. It's just something you get better with time.
Are you sure, Bill? It's just not my waffling.
Just so you guys know how I'm trying to monetize, just for your edification. I want to run this past you and get one final comment.
I think they don't want to hear that, Bill. But
I do want to tell them this because I think it has to do with something they can do too down the road, and I'll offer them to be in it. Basically, I'm trying to figure out a real quick way that podcasters can get up on a WordPress site. And I'm thinking about using a Genesis with Dynamic, and it's just so they can start getting a way to collect addresses, hook it into some type of system to collect their addresses, and just a real simple template, throw it up, and then teach them how to podcast using the Lipson method, which is an interesting way. Because those two things, I think, tie podcasters down, the WordPress site as well as the mechanics of podcasting.
I think it's a great idea, Bill. Get on with it, Bill.
So I'm going to invite everybody in this group just to have a free membership into that platform if they want to learn the podcast. You can learn the podcast for $5 a month for the Lipson site.
I think they might be tempted, Bill. You never know.
No,
I know
that Adam has who has a podcast out there? I know Adam has one. That's right.
I have one. I'm actually starting 2 more, if not a third one, by January 1st.
Yeah. And so let me get back with you in 15 minutes.
I have one.
Where is it, Chad?
I say I have a podcast on iTunes, but it's just music I give away. I don't actually talk.
Okay.
So, but I have set up the mechanics of one and stuff.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, then.
I haven't got that far yet. It's on my list.
Okay. I can get somebody up in like an hour.
All right, there we go. All right, folks, thanks for it. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I think it's been quite constructive and it went a bit smoother than our first one. And in next month it will be even more smoother. Thanks,
hey, stay on the line for a second. I want to let people go one at a time. I'm going to try something. So I just want to try a system. So Adam, you're going off first. I'll be back with you in about 15 minutes.
Sounds good.
I'm trying to eject. So eject. See what happened. Where's Adam?
He's gone.
I'm going to inject me. This is how I watch it. I tune on, and I'll watch it on my laptop. That'll be me in the future.
Oh, he's gone.
Chad?
Yeah?
Like say goodbye.
Bye.
You've been ejected, mate.
And John, any last words?
Huh?
Any last words?
You can find me lockdown_ on Twitter.
Oh, you know what? I meant to do that. We need to get everyone's primary website, Jonathan, on your site so people have links, and we need to get the audience more involved. So here you go, John. Aloha.
See you later. Bye.
So, Jonathan.
Yeah. You're going to eject me as well. I think
I'll eject myself.
You're bloody tempted, aren't you?
I want to see what happens when I eject myself and eject each other at the same time.
No, just save the feed to bloody
Wait, so I present to everyone.
Yeah.
I'm presenting to everyone. You know what we need to do? I think one of the problems is I have about 1,000 contacts on my Google Plus Hangout. What we don't have is on this Hangout on WP-Tonic, this Gmail address, this Google Plus. We need to combine all of our personal contacts into this so more people can listen in.
That's good.
And looking at a way our audience can actually find a way that they can text us, interact, and text back and forth, which I think they can do. I'm looking at a platform for people to do that. Another way to mutually broadcast.
Yeah, is this because this is going to be part of the podcast of the.
Yeah, this is the end of it. We're still live.
So I think we need to stop now.
Let me stop the broadcast.
I'll give you a call on Skype for 2 minutes. Is that okay?
Stay on the line. Do not get off the line. We're going to stop broadcasting, and I'll talk to you off the line on this.
Right.